will be a live stream. So this morning we actually have a very serious presentation for you. It's kind of to go along with our upcoming Flag Day, which is on June 14th every year, and also to talk to you a little bit more about Memorial Day, which we just celebrated yesterday. So we are going to have a little bit of school participation in just a moment, and then I will introduce to you some representatives that are here that are going to talk about the flag and taps, and then we are going to end with taps. And if you don't know what that is, by the end of the assembly today, you should know. So with no further ado, I'm going to introduce Mr. Richards and the 7th and 8th grade band, and if all of you would rise for the Star Spangled Banner. Thank you, 7th and 8th grade band, Mr. Richards. So at this time, I'd like to introduce to you, and I'll have them introduce themselves, but some members from the local American Legion posts. We have some representatives here from the Coxsackie post, from the Athens post, and from the Catskill post. So with no further ado, I'm going to turn this portion over to them.
Good morning, students. We're here today to show you the folding of the flag and what each fold of the flag means. We have, like she said, we had individuals here from Catskill, Athens, and Coxsackie's American Legion. At the end of the flag folding, we're going to have the meaning of taps and why we play taps. And then one of your own students from CA here is going to perform taps for you. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to our Marine here, and she's going to tell you what each fold of the flag means.
Can you hear me? The flag folding ceremony represents the same religious principles of which our country was originally founded. The portion of the flag denoting honor is the canton of the blue, containing the stars representing states veterans served in uniform. The canton field of blue dresses from left to right and is inverted only when draped as a pole. on the casket of a veteran who has served our country honorably in uniform. In the United States Armed Forces, at the ceremony of retreat, the flag is lowered, folded in a triangle, and kept under watch throughout the night as a tribute to our nation's honored dead. The next morning, it is brought out, and at the ceremony of reveille, run aloft as a symbol of our belief in the resurrection of the body. The symbols for folding the flag. The first fold of our flag is a symbol of life. The second fold is a symbol of our belief in eternal life. The third fold is made in honor and remembrance of the veterans departing our ranks and who have gave a portion of his or her life for the defense of our country to attain peace throughout the world. The fourth fold represents our weaker nature. As American citizens trusting in God, it is He we turn to in times of peace, as well as in times of war, and for His divine guidance. The fifth fold is a tribute to our country, for in the words of Stephen Decanter, our country in dealing with other countries, may she always be right, but is still our country, right or wrong. The sixth fold is for where our hearts lie. It is with our hearts that we pledge our allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, and justice for all. The seventh fold is a tribute to our armed forces, for it is through the armed forces that we protect our country and our flag against all enemies, whether they are found within or without the boundaries of our republic. The eighth fold is a tribute to the one who entered into the valley of the shadow of death, that we may see the light of day, and to honor our mother, for whom it flies on Mother's Day. The ninth fold is a tribute to womanhood, for it has been through their faith, love, loyalty, and devotion the character of the men and women who have made this country great have been molded. The 10th fold is a tribute to Father, for he, too, has given his sons and daughters for the defense of our country since he and she was first born. The 11th fold, in the eyes of Hebrew citizens, represents the lower portion of the seal of King David and King Solomon, and glorifies in their eyes the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The 12th fold, in the eyes of a Christian citizen, represents an emblem of eternity and glories in their eyes for God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. In completing the flag, when the flag is completely folded, the stars are uppermost, reminding us of our nation motto, "In God We Trust." After the flag is completely folded and tucked in, it has an appearance of a cocked hat. Ever reminding us of the soldiers who served under General George Washington, and the sailors and Marines who served under Captain John Paul Jones, and were followed by their comrades and shipmates in the United States Armed Forces, preserving for us the rights, privileges, and freedoms we enjoy today. We hope you understand and appreciate our flag, the symbol of our country and freedom. Thank you, and God bless America.
At this time, Mr. George Granger will tell you what the meaning of and the origin of taps.
Morning, kids. Good morning, kids. Thank you. I am an alumni of this school. I once was tortured here, just like you are, put through numerous things, and loved every minute of it. And I know you're going to love and appreciate another lesson. But this is a very important, as far as we're concerned, lesson. Have you all heard of TAPS? Do you know what TAPS is? That little 24-letter or 24-note song that's done at the end of days or anything like that? How about this? Is anybody on a baseball team? Good. Okay. When I was in Coxsackie-Athens, middle school, high school, excuse me, I was kicked out of Catskill. Don't tell anybody that. But when I was up here, about the only thing we had to play indoors was ice hockey on your hardwood floor back here. We had kids that played baseball. Most kids, however, at that point, knew who Abner Doubleday was. Is that name familiar to anyone? Have you ever been to the Baseball Hall of Fame? Have you? You witnessed the Doubleday ball field. That's the ball field right behind the Hall of Fame. The origin of TAPS came from a gentleman named Butterfield. His name was General Daniel Butterfield. And this is where we get into the learning portion of this lesson. Now, whether Ms. Mazzillo is going to test you on this, I don't know, but please pay attention for her sake. Why are you shaking your head no? She's not going to test you. You don't know, Mrs. Mazzillo. Anyway, U.S. General Daniel Butterfield and his brigade camped at a place called Harrison Landing in Virginia, recuperating after a 7-day war near Richmond. Dissatisfied with the standard bugle call employed by the Army to indicate to troops that it was time to go to sleep, and thinking a call should sound more melodious, Butterfield reworked the existing bugle call used to signal the end of day. Now, that's what TAPS was originally used for. He decided to modify that, and after he and his brigade bugler, Private Norton, played it for the men, buglers from other units became interested in the 24, remember that number, 24-note tune, and it quickly spread throughout the Army. It even caught on with the Confederates. This is the beginning or toward the middle of the Civil War, so kind of remember that 24-note bugle call and the Civil War may just come together in something. Not long after Butterfield created TAPS, it was played for the first time at a military funeral. Again, this was to announce the end of day. They modified that, and it was used for a Union cannoneer killed in action. The man's commanding officer, Captain Tidball, decided the bugle call would be safer than the traditional firing of 3 rifle volleys over the soldier's grave. 3 volleys were 7 persons lined up with weapons, firing 3 times apiece. When you go back to your classroom or home tonight, look at the weapons that they carried back then. It took roughly 30 seconds between rounds just to load another round into the weapon. And back then, those rounds were very scarce. So to do that every day over the course of an almost 5-year war or conflict was beginning to cost a lot of rounds also. So rather than firing those 3 volleys over the soldier's grave, a move which could also be confused by the nearby enemy as an attack. So, because they didn't know what the North was using that for. As for the name taps, the most likely explanation is that it comes from the fact that prior to Butterfield's, remember the name Butterfield, bugle call, the lights out call was followed by 3 drum beats. So you're going to fire over the enemy's head, and then you're going to do this pounding on drums, just 3 beats, which to the south indicated a charge is coming. So, wasn't good for anybody. Excuse me. So after that, the lights out call was then followed by 3 drum beats dubbed the drum taps, as well as the taps, and then simply taps is what it's known as. When Butterfield's call replaced the drum beats, soldiers referred to it as taps. Also, it was an unofficial name for that music. They note that Butterfield's bugle call was originally known as extinguished lights. It was not known as taps, but it's been changed several times. And it appeared in military manuals until 1891 as extinguished lights. At that time, taps was then formally recognized as part of the U.S. military funerals. So those are some names and dates that may come in handy, but again, it was to signal the end of the day and to go to bed originally, and then it was modified. It's also played on military reservations at the end of every workday, and again at the end of the daylight hour when soldiers are supposed to be heading toward bed. Now, because you can tell by my voice, I am not an expert singer. Matter of fact, I scream a lot. But I'm going to read you some lyrics from a tune, and it was by a gentleman who you probably don't know by name, John Wayne. It was July in Virginia. The scent of dogwood and laurel lay heavy on the land, while the birches of fruit, the peach and the apple, marked the full sway of summer. This is in springtime. For 7 fateful days, the trees, the flowers, the very ground itself had shuddered under the sledgehammer blows of Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson, Southern General, and a Northern General. Those blows had mauled the Army of the Potomac, and yet that army was not destroyed. 7,000 men. 7,000 men. That's a lot of guys. Had fallen in that dreadful week, and the savagery of the conflict was grimly evident in the river of wounded that wound through the green hills. Remember, 7,000 dead also equated to 42,000 injured persons. Now a new sound drifted in the soft evening sky, for Colonel Dan Butterfield, a courageous and able soldier, was also a man of music. To honor his fallen comrades, he composed a simple and heart-rending melody. On the 2nd of July, in the year of 1862, those strains floated over the graves that scarred the dark Virginia earth. It's been more than 100 years since that sound was born. The sound is taps. But these notes have never died away. Every night of the year, throughout the world, fighting men of America and women, from the north and the south, the east and the west, worldwide, close their eyes and sleep to its call. And in each of their hearts, there glows a fierce surge of pride. Now again, try and remember the following 4 lines. When you hear Mr. Mazzillo play taps, put these words to his notes. Fading light, falling night, trumpet calls as the sun sinks in light. Sleep in peace, comrades dear, God is near. That's the entire 24 notes and the language that goes with those notes. It's played every ceremony that a veteran has been lost, whether it be civilian life or whether it's been in military action. You also note that it plays for firemen, EMS, police officers. It should play for school bus drivers. Some of your parents know me as a good driver. That's even scarier because when you act up, I used to go to your parents. But it's a very important song, and it brings most veterans, when they hear it, not only to attention, and either face the nearest flag or the sound of the bugle. By law, we have to do that. And when that's played, we all feel it, every one of us that serves as a veteran.
Thank you, George. At this time, Mr. Samuel Mazzello is going to play taps for us. Thank you, Samuel.
And also, kids, you get to hear me for another second here or two. Recently, one of your neighbors possibly, but a resident of the town of Coxsackie passed away. He was a military soldier. His name was Colby Lord. His services and wake are going to be held at the end of the street up here at 385 Mansion. I believe between Wednesday evening and then Thursday morning. If you happen to be out and about, or if your parents happen to be driving around, Colby was an active soldier in the military of this country. Out of respect for him, there will be 2 large meetings up there again the evening of and the day of the ceremony. His body will then be transported up to the Saratoga National Battlefield Cemetery where he'll be interred. This is a man who was your neighbor. You may have known him. He was also probably one of, with the exception of a young lady that we've all met as veterans, Colby was a wrestler for your wrestling team. I don't know what other sports he played here in school. Football? Okay, was he baseball also? Did Little League. Okay. So Colby's one of us. He grew up in this area. So if you get a moment, just kind of hold a little moment of silence for yourself. We're going to do it up here on the stage in just a moment. And we would ask for silence in the room as we pay tribute to Colby Lord one more time. Gentlemen, remove your caps for a moment of silence. Thank you very much, guys. Very much.
That concludes our ceremony here today. We'll be up here in the front. If anybody has any questions, we'll gladly try to help you. Ms. Mazzello?
Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for mentioning Colby. I was going to mention Colby as well. He was the class of 2020, and I know at least one teacher out here, and myself, we had the privilege of teaching him and knowing him. But this is many, many, many people who have died for our country. So thank you for allowing us to just reflect, even though it was yesterday. In a way, every day should be Memorial Day. Every day we should remember those who have died for our country. And thank you to the ladies and gentlemen up here who took their time to come and just share a little bit of knowledge with you. So if you can give them a round of applause for coming and for their service. And thank you to everybody who joined us, but at this time, this concludes our program. Thank you.